So these are the verse synths all working together. Now in terms of the chorus, let's have a listen to these. So first of all, we start with what I've called lead one. Let's just loop this section. So this is the synth you have heard in the intro, the very, very simple intro. It's this. I've got automation switched off at the moment, but obviously the automation would have closed this filter down. Wrong one. Something like that. So it's a very simple Juno. I think this is one of the ones I did for the synthwave pack. So it's just a single oscillator with a white noise sample oscillator as well. Kind of early detuned saw. Now, in terms of effects, I'm going through delay. Yeah, pretty standard. Delay, it will be going through the main reverb as well, which again, we've got switched off at the moment. So let's just switch off all of the effects I've got on at the moment. So it's really kind of heavy, isn't it? Turn on delay. But it's this EQ, this first EQ is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of sculpting, taking out a lot of the bottom end below 272. Then we're taking out some of these low mids, 800 hertz. Yeah, they're quite nasally running, that kind of thing. Then the reason I use a second EQ is sometimes if I want to carry on sculpting even around the same kind of frequencies, I find it visually easier to see a second EQ. That's the only reason I've done it this way. So I've taken something out about 300 as well. Yeah, that's kind of that boxy, woofy region again. And then we're compressing it because we've got the delay going through and the filters are closing and opening. You want to keep this compressed just a little bit because as the filters open and close, it can get lost in the mix. And that's pretty much it. I've got utility on the end to level this sound because, again, all my faders are set to 0. And then the last main synth is something I call chorus pluck. So this works with the main lead and it does this. This is called Simple Oberheim Pluck, and it is a pair of saw waves, Oberheim saw waves. Very slightly detuned again, nothing special. It's just a typical plucky synth sound with the Oberheim filter in Anna 2. You might notice as well, a lot of the time I might leave the delay on the synth and add delay as well. That's fine. As long as they work together and they add up to a nice sound, I'm fine doing that. So let me just turn these effects off again. So first thing I'm doing is I'm using auto pan on this. I just want this moving left and right a little bit. Let's turn the delay on. Then I'm using saturator, probably not a lot. Almost acting as a compressor. I've made a video on this before. It's almost compressing it more than colouring it, but there is a slight amount of warmth it's adding as well. And then finally pulling a lot of that bottom end out and this kind of mid-low section again. This is probably going to be that nasal, boxy, woofy area. Yeah. So together with the lead one and the bass, so they all add up and layer together properly. So in terms of notes I'm using, this is the last thing we'll look at. In this main lead, for example, you'll notice all the notes are white notes. Okay, and this is just following the same pattern all the way through the first 3 quarters of this chord progression. But then the last quarter, we swap it out. Again, they're all white notes because that is the scale of A minor, the natural scale. They're all white notes, so you can use any of the white notes and they will be technically right. You still have to have your kind of musical interpretation of what works better than other notes. But in this case, I felt this worked. So at the end, the lead one actually moves up to follow this last bass note. So it goes from this. So again, this first half, this is the core, the verse. And then we move on to the chorus. Now, notice, remember I said about these hats? When the chorus comes in, we've got this much faster 16th note hi-hat coming in. So listen to the transition. So it picks up the pace of the track a little bit. So those are the main synths. There are more synths. There's some synths I'm using in the break, and maybe a couple of little flourishes as well. It's the break synths we'll look at in isolation because there's a couple of nice synths in there. What we need to add next is the vocals. So I will see you there. Cheers.